Let's get right into it. Number 15. Mummy smoothies. Picture this. You walk into a medieval pharmacy, expecting herbs and maybe a questionable leech or two. Instead, the apothecary offers you ground-up mummy. Yes, the actual dried flesh of ancient Egyptian corpses, pulverized into dust and sprinkled into medicine like it's some kind of cursed protein powder. For centuries, Europeans believed consuming mummies could heal anything from headaches to the plague, because nothing screams, "I value my health," quite like cannibalizing a 3,000-year-old pharaoh. This bizarre practice started with a mix-up. Traders originally sold bitumen, a kind of tar Egyptians sometimes used in mummification, because it was believed to have healing properties. But somewhere along the line, someone thought, wait, why not the entire mummy? And boom, corpse dust cocktails were born. Wealthy nobles sipped it in their wine, and doctors prescribed it like aspirin. The irony? Egyptians went to great lengths to preserve bodies for eternity, only to end up as someone's medieval snack pack. Did it work? Of course not. Instead of eternal life, people just got a side of bone powder with their ailments. It's like trying to cure the flu by licking drywall. The only thing it really cured was curiosity, because yes, people actually paid good money to sprinkle mummy jerky on their bread. Number 14. Blood baths. Forget fancy face masks or collagen injections. Back in the 16th century, Countess Báthory allegedly believed the secret to eternal youth was bathing in the blood of virgins. Yes, full-on horror movie style. Drain the youth, soak in their blood, wake up glowing. To her credit, skincare marketing has always been dramatic. Anti-aging serum, miracle elixir, the blood of your enemies. Báthory supposedly killed hundreds of young women for her gothic spa treatments. Historians debate the details. Some think the whole story was exaggerated to ruin her reputation, but the legend stuck. And honestly, even the idea of bloodbaths is peak creepy. Imagine walking into someone's bathroom and instead of bubble bath, it's just crimson soup. Biologically speaking, no. Blood doesn't reverse wrinkles. Your skin cells aren't like vampire USB ports waiting to recharge. Modern medicine does use young blood transfusions in very controlled experimental settings, but it's a far cry from dunking yourself in a medieval slaughterhouse jacuzzi. So whether Báthory was a misunderstood noblewoman or the original goth influencer, her spa day routine remains one of history's darkest and dumbest beauty hacks. Number 13. The elixir of mercury. Here's a fun fact. Mercury, that shiny liquid metal inside old thermometers, is also a fantastic way to slowly poison yourself. But for centuries, alchemists and emperors believed drinking mercury or smearing it on your skin could grant immortality. Ancient Chinese rulers, including the infamous Qin Shi Huang, who built the first Great Wall and standardized Chinese writing, guzzled mercury-laced potions in their desperate quest to live forever. Spoiler alert, it killed him. This was supposed to be the ultimate elixir of life. Instead, it was basically chugging a neurotoxic energy drink. Mercury doesn't just make you sick, it messes with your brain, your organs, your everything. Some emperors reportedly became paranoid, erratic, or just dropped dead early. But hey, at least they died believing they were on the right track. The irony is brutal. Qin Shi Huang unified China, built wonders, and prepared a massive tomb full of terracotta warriors to protect him in the afterlife. He wanted to live forever, and instead, his immortality juice guaranteed the exact opposite. Nothing says oops like killing yourself with your own cure. Number 12. Eating crushed gems. If you've ever thought smoothies with chia seeds were a bit pretentious, imagine tossing in some sapphires, pearls, or rubies instead. In medieval India, China, and Europe, Wealthy elites believed consuming powdered gemstones could protect against disease, poison, or death itself. Because apparently, if diamonds are forever, maybe eating them makes you forever too. Doctors would grind up emeralds or pearls, mix them with honey, and prescribe them for anything from indigestion to, you guessed it, eternal youth. The logic? Gems were rare, shiny and tough, so they must hold magical life-giving powers. Reality check. Your digestive system doesn't care if you just ate a $10,000 ruby. It'll just pass it out the other end like a very expensive piece of sandpaper. Some royals literally overdosed on crushed gems. Take Mughal Emperor Humayun, who supposedly died after slipping while carrying an armful of books, but who'd also been dosing himself with precious stones because why not? Turns out swallowing jewels doesn't make you immortal. It just makes your bathroom break sound like a jewelry heist. Number 11. Corpse touch therapy. Imagine being sick and the doctor prescribes touching a freshly executed criminal. Yep, in 17th and 18th century Europe, people believed that pressing your tumors, warts or other bad spots against a hanged man's body could cure you. The logic was basically, this person's life is over, so their leftover life force will transfer to you, like stealing Wi-Fi from your neighbor, except it's grimy, morbid, and comes with the faint smell of rope burn. Public executions became bizarre medical pop-ups. Crowds gathered, not just for the spectacle, but for the chance to rub elbows, literally with the deceased. Mothers held babies up to touch corpses, men shoved their gouty feet against the lifeless skin, and everyone went home thinking they'd cheated death. Imagine trying to get over pink eye and your neighbor says, "Oh, just go rub your face on that dangling guy downtown." Of course, no surprise here. It didn't work. Diseases weren't scared off by dead criminals. If anything, people probably left with extra infections and trauma. But hey, it was free healthcare, if your idea of healthcare involves pressing your boils onto a cooling corpse in front of a cheering crowd. Number 10. Drinking gladiator blood. Ancient Rome loved a good show. Lions, swords, screaming fans. It was basically WrestleMania with more stabbing. But the audience wasn't just there for entertainment. Some were there for a post-game snack. Spectators believed drinking the blood of freshly killed gladiators could cure epilepsy or give them strength. Because nothing says refreshing like a warm cup of warrior latte, Roman doctors recommended it too. Epilepsy was poorly understood, and blood was thought to carry life energy. So naturally, if a strong, muscled gladiator died, chugging his hemoglobin might transfer that power. In practice, it was closer to a low-budget vampire cosplay. Imagine waiting in line after an execution, cup in hand, like you're at the worst smoothie bar on earth. Needless to say, it didn't cure epilepsy. But for some, it offered hope, a sense of connection to strength, or maybe just an excuse to look edgy at dinner parties. In reality, all they got was a mouthful of iron and bacteria. So if you've ever been grossed out by double dipping at a party, just remember, at least nobody's passing around cups of warm gladiator blood anymore. Number 9. Heart of a king. What's creepier than eating a mummy? Try eating your own king. In the Middle Ages, when French King Louis IX died, his heart was supposedly cooked, seasoned, and fed to the faithful, because ingesting royal organs was thought to pass on strength, courage, or even divine blessing. It wasn't just France either. Variations of ritual cannibalism for health popped up across Europe and beyond. This practice, known as corpse medicine, was disturbingly common. People ate skull powder for headaches, drank bone marrow for strength, and in this case, dined on hearts like it was a Michelin star Immortality buffet. Royals themselves sometimes believed in it too, treating the bodies of fellow nobles like walking prescription bottles. Did it work? Absolutely not. If anything, it's just proof of how desperate people were to find shortcuts around mortality. Eating a king's heart won't make you brave. It'll just make you wonder why you didn't go for the soup of the day instead. But hey, nothing unites a kingdom quite like a communal organ dinner. Number 8. Lead makeup. Ah yes, the pursuit of beauty, the one thing people will happily die for. In Renaissance Europe, pale skin was all the rage, because being ghostly white meant you were wealthy enough to avoid working outside. The secret weapon? Lead-based makeup. Yes, people literally smeared poison onto their faces daily, thinking it would keep them youthful and flawless. Queen Elizabeth. I was famous for her Venetian ceruse, a paste of white lead and vinegar that gave her face that signature chalky look. The problem? Lead doesn't just sit politely on your skin. It seeps in, causing hair loss, rotting teeth, paralysis, and eventually death. Imagine wanting to look fresh for a ball and instead watching your jawbone disintegrate like a stale cookie. Women applied layers upon layers, often covering sores caused by the makeup itself with, you guessed it, even more makeup. It was a vicious cycle. The cure for looking bad was the exact thing making you look worse. Basically, Renaissance skincare was like using fire to fight a sunburn. And while it didn't cheat death, it definitely made you look like you were auditioning for the role of Corpse #3 in a Shakespeare tragedy. ChatGPT said, Number 7, cannibal cures. So you've got a splitting headache. Do you grab some aspirin? No. If you lived in 17th century Europe, you might have sprinkled powdered human skull onto your toast. Yes, skull toast. Or maybe you'd stir bone marrow into your wine, or swallow human fat ointment as medicine. This wasn't a fringe practice either. It was mainstream, with doctors, nobles, and even royalty doing it. This macabre pharmacy was built on the idea that life force lingered in human remains. So, eating bits of bone or sipping blood wasn't seen as gross. It was seen as practical recycling. Want to stop seizures? Drink blood fresh from an execution. Want to cure bruises? Rub on melted human fat, like some sort of medieval Vicks Vapo Rub. And let's not pretend this was a peasant-only thing. King Charles II of England had his own special brew called the King's Drops, made from distilled human skull, royal endorsement at its finest. Of course, none of it worked. Instead, you just got the medieval equivalent of a cannibal subscription box. So yeah, next time you cringe at kombucha, just remember, at least it's not flavored with FEMA. Number 6. The arsenic diet. Some people eat kale to live longer. Some jog at 5 a.m. Others, mostly in 19th century Austria, ate arsenic. Why? Because they thought it made them look healthy, breathe easier, and even extend their lifespan. That's right, actual poison became a wellness fad. Arsenic eaters claimed small doses gave them rosy cheeks and boosted stamina. In reality, it was slowly destroying their insides. But hey, when you're a 19th century mountain farmer and you've got limited medical knowledge, why not season your lunch with a dash of rat poison chic? Even weirder, many arsenic eaters developed tolerance over time, which only reinforced the myth that it was working. Travelers wrote about it like it was some exotic health hack, basically the Victorian version of, "Oh, I only drink alkaline water." Meanwhile, science eventually confirmed arsenic destroys your liver, kidneys and skin, and long-term use is a very efficient way to not cheat death at all. Basically, the arsenic diet was the original influencer detox, except instead of glowing skin, you got organ failure. Number 5. Burial in honey. If you're squeamish, buckle up. In ancient China, there was supposedly a process called mellification. The idea? You'd volunteer at the end of your life to eat nothing but honey until your insides turned into a syrupy mess. Then, when you finally died, Because you can't live on honey alone, your body would be sealed in a stone coffin full of honey for 100 years. The result, a human honey mummy. After enough time, the body would be preserved in sweet, sticky perfection, and the end product, known as human confection, was believed to be a miracle medicine. People supposedly consumed small pieces of the honey-soaked corpse to heal wounds or extend their lives. Imagine spreading that on your toast. Oh, this jam, it's Steve, he's delicious. Now, historians debate whether mellification was real or just legend, but the fact people even wrote about it says a lot about human desperation to outwit death. Honey does have antibacterial properties, so it can preserve things, but eating corpse honey, that's less medical breakthrough and more Winnie the Pooh, but make it a horror movie. Number 4. Deadly alchemy. Alchemy wasn't just about turning lead into gold. It was about turning you into someone who never dies. Medieval and Renaissance alchemists dedicated their lives to finding the Philosopher's Stone, a mythical substance that could supposedly grant immortality. Spoiler, they never found it, but they did whip up a lot of poisonous cocktails in the meantime. Aspiring immortals drank bizarre brews made from sulfur, arsenic, mercury, and whatever other shiny rock dust they could scrape into a cup. Picture it. You're hunched over in a smoky lab, surrounded by bubbling flasks, convinced you're seconds away from inventing eternal life, when in reality, you're basically mixing the world's deadliest smoothie. If Monster Energy released an undying elixir flavor, this would be it. Some alchemists were so obsessed, they willingly tested their potions on themselves. Results ranged from agonizing slow death to hallucinating until you set your lab on fire. The irony? Alchemy did eventually lead to chemistry, which gave us modern medicine, but back then it was like trying to invent Tylenol by drinking random lava lamp juice. Eternal life? Nope. Eternal diarrhea? Absolutely. Number 3. Smoke enemas. Yes, this one is exactly what it sounds like. In the 18th century, doctors believed that blowing tobacco smoke into a drowning victim's rectum could literally breathe life back into them. Because when you're dying, what you really need is a stranger pumping cigar fumes into your butt. This delightful medical trend started because tobacco was thought to stimulate the body and revive people. So governments even installed smoke enema kits along riverbanks, ready to be whipped out whenever someone was pulled from the water. Forget CPR. This was BR, butt resuscitation. Of course, it didn't actually work. Blowing smoke anywhere near someone's intestines doesn't magically restart their lungs. Eventually, doctors realized it was useless and humiliating, and the phrase, blowing smoke up your ass, lived on as a metaphor instead. Honestly, this might be the only time in history where failing to cheat death gave us a killer piece of slang. Number 2. Immortal chicken blood. Let's fast forward to 20th century China, where chicken blood therapy briefly became a government-approved miracle cure. People were literally injected with chicken blood to treat everything from baldness to cancer. The idea was that animal vitality could boost human health. If chickens laid eggs daily, surely their blood had unstoppable life force, right? Spoiler, wrong. Not only was it completely ineffective, but it also led to infections, allergic reactions, and unsurprisingly, death. Imagine showing up at the clinic and the doctor says, "Forget penicillin, let's try poultry." It was dangerous pseudoscience packaged as progress. For a while, though, patients lined up by the thousands, desperate for a quick fix against mortality. The therapy was banned after it caused more harm than help, but it remains a weird example of just how far humans will go for eternal life. Because apparently, when faced with death, some people say prayers, some people write poetry, and others just mainline chicken juice. Number 1. Resurrection by electricity now for the grand finale. Picture the early 1800s. Electricity is the hottest new discovery, and scientists are zapping everything in sight. Enter Giovanni Aldini, a showman scientist who dragged fresh corpses into lecture halls and jolted them with electrical currents. The result? The bodies twitched, eyes flickered open, limbs jerked like they were about to rise from the dead. Audiences freaked out. Some genuinely thought Aldini was reanimating the dead. In reality, he was just triggering nerve reflexes. But the spectacle inspired Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein and cemented electricity as the magic life force of the future. For a brief moment, people thought humanity had finally cracked the code to cheat death. Plug yourself into a lightning bolt, come back good as new. Of course, it didn't actually resurrect anyone. It was science theatre, part experiment, part horror show. But it proves the pattern. Every era has its own ridiculous way of chasing immortality. From drinking mummy powder to zapping corpses with lightning, humans just can't stop trying to outsmart the one guarantee in life: death. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.